The British coalition government has clashed over how to deal with rising immigration in the UK. Leading Liberal Democrat Vince Cable has criticised Tory Prime Minister David Cameron over a speech in which the Premier vowed to cut immigration down to tens of thousands. Cameron said that some immigrants' failure to learn English was, quote, wrecking communities. Now it comes as member states in the EU are locked in a battle over the deluge of North African migrants seeking refuge in Europe. Let's now cross live to London and speak to Nigel Farage, leader of the UK Independence Party. So David Cameron has been accused of, quote, stirring up extremism by a senior cabinet colleague over some of his immigration plans. Do you think his remarks were too strong here?
Well, look, the first thing to say is I'm delighted that a British Prime Minister has actually stated the obvious, which is that if you have huge mass immigration that happens rapidly into an area, and if people don't speak the same language, then what you get is the ghettoisation in cities and towns, and you get a dislocated society. So, no, I'm in full marks to David Cameron for at least starting that debate. Now, Vince Cable is a bit of an old dreamer, an idealist, and he thinks all immigration is absolutely wonderful and we should never criticise it at all. I'm sorry, Mr Cable, but you're the one that is hopelessly out of touch. Only 4% of Liberal Democrat voters think that a net increase of the British population by immigration of 250,000 people a year makes sense. So Cable is completely out of touch. So look, David Cameron, he started this debate. The trouble is that he can't deliver because he's promising to cut immigration down from hundreds to tens of thousands. Well, he can do that by stopping people coming in large numbers from outside the European Union.
There are some that say that whatever clampdown on immigration policy, whatever it is, it won't work because those that are already in the UK are increasing the population simply by breeding.
Well, there is some truth in that. There is some truth in that, but that's not the argument. The argument here are the number of new settlers that come into the country every year. And because we're part of the European Union, we have total free movement of peoples within that union. Now, since 2004, since Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and now Bulgaria and Romania have joined the union, they are very much poorer countries. Most of them learn English as their first foreign language, and we've had a huge number of people from those countries.
So you talk about the spillover of people from these countries coming across the borders now as part of a big European neighbourhood. But what role do you think the EU should do in resolving what many are calling a crisis? Is it powerless?
The EU doesn't know what to do, because it's the individual member states that grant citizenship. So, for example, when Romania gives 1 million passports to Moldovans, those Moldovans with EU Romanian passports can go wherever they like. If Mr Berlusconi gives lots of Libyans passports, once they've got EU passports, they can go wherever they like. And the argument that we're making here in this country is that the United Kingdom is the most overcrowded country in the whole of the European Union. You only have to travel on the London Underground to realise just how overcrowded we've become. And the argument that I would put to Mr Cameron is, yes, let's have this debate, but let's not have the EU having open borders and free movement of peoples. Why don't we, in Britain, decide ourselves how many people come in every year?
Now, when you talk about having a debate here, and there's a cabinet member accusing the British Prime Minister of inciting extremism here, it would seem maybe perhaps to some that in France, with the recently implemented burqa ban and arrests already being made with that France's burqa ban may be more inflammatory than simple immigration rhetoric from Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that Vince Cable, frankly, has made a fool of himself with those comments. It is a perfectly respectable and decent thing to talk about immigration numbers. Goodness me, we have an extra 3 million people have settled in this overcrowded country of ours since 1997. So I would ignore what Cable said. He's completely out of touch. He isn't doing much good as business secretary anyway. I can't see him lasting long within this coalition.
So you're tipping your hat to Prime Minister Cameron here, saying that, you know, it was good for the comments he's made here on immigration. There seems to be in this growing age of political correctness, particularly among politicians, to tread very carefully around the issue of immigration, otherwise they're being seen as racist.
Well, I mean, Cameron actually 4 years ago Cameron accused me and my party of closet racism for talking about the immigration issue. I'm pleased to see that politically he's matured and he's now making those same arguments himself. The difficulty David Cameron has got is he will now have raised expectations within this country that he as a Prime Minister is actually not just going to talk the talk, but he's going to walk the walk, he's going to deliver, and the point that I'm making is he cannot do that because we're members of the EU, because we have open borders, and because from May the 1st, our social security system will give people from Poland the same rights to unemployment benefit that we have.
All right, Nigel Farage, MEP and leader of the UK Independence Party. Thank you.